Hello and welcome to EduCurious. I am so excited about our guest today. This is Angela Kelly. She is a inspiration to me. I started listening to her when podcasts were kind of first going on, and I switched from the business world to the education world, and I was taking notes right and left from her. She is absolutely amazing, and I am so honored to have her on our show today. So, Angela, welcome to the show. Thank you again for agreeing to do this.
Yes, it is my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
So I want to hear a little bit about how you got started. You are I feel like a world renowned, but it might be more local, a renowned podcaster, but you have so many other facets of your company. You do coaching, you've written books, you do keynote speaking, but tell me a little bit, some of the highlights. I want my audience to get to know you.
Yeah, great. For those of you who are brand new to me, my name is Angela Kelly. I'm a certified life and leadership coach for school leaders. I help school leaders at the site level, district level, state level, really just navigate the demands of the job. But my unique spin on this is I help them navigate the mental and emotional demands of the job in addition to like the strategies and techniques. So there are two components of educational leadership. There is the mindset and the skill set. And so we combine those two things. But what I want to really do in the world is help school leaders love their jobs and their lives. So lead exceptional schools and exceptional lives, because the job is intense. Education is really intense. It's hard to be a teacher. It's hard to be a paraprofessional, support staff. Everybody's working really hard to ensure that kids are safe and that they are loved and that they are learning and growing and progressing as young humans. And school leadership is really a challenge at times. And so I want to make that journey for them a little bit easier and a little more fun along the way.
Now, what I feel like is so authentic about you is you're not just saying, here's some things that you need to do. You have walked every part of this journey along the way. Every experience that you speak on your podcast and in your book are from your real life experience. So, can you just unfold your educational pathway and your career journey?
Yeah, for sure. So I started as actually, when I very first started, I was a pre-K. So I was birth through five. I was a parent and early childhood teacher. I did that for a year, and then they moved me up to be the coordinator of that program. So I did all of the teaching and the coordination of the parent meetings. We ran early childhood programs where we had parents and children in class together, and then we had classes that were just for parents. So it was a really fun couple of years. That's where I launched my career back in Minnesota. And then I moved to California in 1995. And that's when I started my teaching career in elementary school. I taught primarily kindergarten, first grade. I spent 15 years in kindergarten, a few years in first grade, and then I was a reading specialist. So I did response to intervention, RTI program, so small group instruction, tier two reading instruction. Then I became an instructional coach. That's when I shifted into working with adults and working with teachers and working with my administrators. And from there, I got my administrative credential and started my first year in principalship. And what was interesting about that first year was I was hired within my district, but a new school was opening. And so I was a brand new principal, and they wanted me to open a brand new school. Like, insane. I didn't know what I was doing, and there was construction. It was a brand new site. So, construction, all new staff, all new buildings. The plumbing wasn't working. The we didn't have a playground yet. We didn't get that until the second half of the year. So they just had grass to play on, which we did great with. And then the lunchroom wasn't set up in the first few months. So it was a pretty wild first year for me, and for the staff and for the kids. But we managed. We just held hands and got through it. And that was my first year of school leadership.
And you have a whole podcast episode way back when I listened on being new and just embracing it and leaning into it. And I found that so very helpful. And there's been all kinds of other topics, but that one really, really stuck out to me because I was also, I mean, I'm always new. I feel like I'm always taking on a challenge. So that
Yes.
was absolutely helpful. Can you highlight a few things about going down the leadership pathway getting your ducks in a row and then accomplishing that goal, if your goal is to be a principal or some sort of leadership? What do you need to hone in on?
Yeah. So my personal experience was I wasn't planning ever to go into school leadership. I loved teaching. I loved being on a grade level. I think kindergarten is just a magical first year. I loved like bringing in parents, embracing them, and teaching them kind of how to navigate, how to advocate for themselves, and how to navigate, and what kind of questions to ask, and how to be an involved parent in their children's education. So I really loved kindergarten. But my superintendent, he loved my work and felt like I needed to do more. And I already had my master's degree in education, but I tagged on my administrative credential just in case one day, but I wasn't really planning to use it. And what I will say is this, if you're an aspiring leader, if you're interested in school leadership, stepping into the identity of a school leader before you're actually a school leader. So what would it look and feel like to be a school leader? If you're aspiring to be a site leader, an assistant principal or a principal, what do you envision it looking like, feeling like? Who would you be? And evolving your identity and starting to identify as a leader. You can also take on teacher leadership roles if you want to like dip your toe in, taking on maybe some committee lead roles or your grade level or department lead roles where you can dip your toe into leadership. What I find interesting is that oftentimes adults will get into leadership and they will say like, this is so much harder than leading kids. And when I ask them why, the truth is that they think there are different expectations. Like adults should know how to XYZ, or adults should be able to. And the truth is that if you we're all the same. We're just grown up versions of these children, and we still have things that we're learning. There's information we know, information we don't. There's mindsets we've been exposed to and mindsets that we haven't been exposed to. So approaching adults in a similar way to students with the compassion and understanding and patience that comes along with teaching children, if you can bring that approach with you into leading adults, you'll find that it's easier to navigate that than if you were to have these expectations that they should know what to do and how to do it, and that they should kind of get it right the first time.
I want to hear a little bit about how you went from being a traditional educator, leader, to going way above and beyond. And you just kind of made this little wax just absolutely. You pressed every boundary and you're doing all kinds of different things that I would have never thought about. And that part to me is so inspiring. You're like, well, I don't need to be confined by these walls. I can be a teacher on a bigger, a much bigger platform. So
Mhm.
share that.
Yes. Okay. So I went into teaching, and then I was in site leadership for 6 years. And then I was promoted up to the district level. So I was a district administrator in my district of 22 years. And that was really when I saw my perspective broadened. So when I got to the district level, I started to see the district from a perspective that I just couldn't have imagined. And I saw the intricacies that were going on at the district level, and I had a lot more compassion for my colleagues at the district level. Because when you're a site leader, you're like, "What are they doing up there all day?" And you realize they're just as busy as we are, and they're working just as hard as we are, and they've got even more things that they're overseeing because they're overseeing multiple schools and the school board and all of that. So I really gained an awareness and a fondness for the work that our district administrators do. So I was up there working with site leaders and helping them build their RTI programs, response to intervention programs, because we had built a robust one. At my school, I had been the RTI instructor, and then we cultivated a really strong RTI program within my school, which earned us the California Distinguished School Award. But we from there, I was working with my peers. Like these were principals who I had been friends with for years, and we would go to district meetings and everybody seemed happy. They seemed good. And then I would go talk with them at individual sites behind closed doors, and the truth of their experience came out. And what you see on the surface as a school leader is maintaining professionalism and is trying to keep all of those, balls in the air, is a human. there's a human being behind the leader at your school and the leader in your district. And those leaders, the human aspect of them was really being challenged. Work-life balance was very difficult. Most of them were parents and were finding it a struggle to feel balanced, to and then to just have their own amount of rest and play in addition to work in their lives. So there was work life balance was an issue, time management was an issue, um, just prioritization, being able to delegate, knowing you know what lever to push when, and just the systematics of like leadership mastery, um, relationship mastery. I started to see where all of these areas in which people were struggling, and it broke my heart because we all would get together and I thought everybody was great. And then I would go back and I would feel isolated and alone. And apparently they were feeling isolated and alone. And I realized there was a gap in support. We have instructional coaches for teachers, and we maybe have executive coaching at the district level for some districts, but for the site level and the coordinators and the directors and the assistant soups, there was a little bit of a gap in professional development where we spend a lot of time and effort and money on teacher professional development. But when you get to the leadership level, it was kind of like, congratulations, you got the job. Here are the keys. Have a great life. Go figure it out. And that was when I started observing. And I thought to myself, there is a need here that's being unaddressed and that needs to be fulfilled. And I'd already been certified as a life coach, but I did the life coaching certification for myself. So I have two certifications, one with Dr. Martha Beck and the other with the Life Coach School. And the founder of that was Brooke Castillo. And I got certified by Dr. Beck in 2012. That was my second year of school leadership. And then in my fourth year of school leadership, I took the certification with the Life Coach School because I wanted to bring these tools into my work. And I wanted to see, could life coaching tools actually apply in a school setting? So I was a principal at this time. I got certified in 2015. And as soon as I got certified that spring, I started teaching the kids uh, the model. What it in the life coach school, it was called the model. I call it the STEAR Cycle. So if you listen to the Empowered Principal podcast, you'll hear the STEAR Cycle. It's my rendition of based off of the model, but it basically is a tool where any human on the planet can take this tool and observe how their thoughts trigger their emotions and how their emotions impact their decisions and their actions, their approach that they decide to take. And from observing, this is what I'm thinking, this is how I'm feeling, this is the urge these are the actions I feel like taking, create outcomes. And so noticing this pattern and noticing that your emotions are really the energy, the fuel behind your decisions and actions, which impact the results that you create. So when I thought, could I teach this to kids? Are they going to get it? I'm going to tell you something. They picked up on it way faster than the adults on campus. And so I started teaching when kids would come in and they were having a conflict. I would write out the STEAR cycle. I would show them, here's what you're thinking and feeling, and we would validate that. And here's how you're thinking and feeling. And here's what happens when those two things interact. And how do you want to feel? Do you want to, be in conflict with your friend and this person? And it started that way. And then after a couple of months, parents started saying, what are you teaching my kids? This is really interesting. I don't understand it. So I said, let me do a principal's coffee. So I started teaching the tools and strategies to the parents. They loved it. And then the teacher said, what are you teaching the students and the parents? And I said, well, let me show you. So that's how it kind of came to be in my years as a site principal. And then when I went up to the district, I was teaching that to my fellow principals to try and help them just navigate the mental and emotional demands of their job and to help them figure out who they wanted to be in their position as a school leader.
You talked about finding that love in your career and paying attention to that mental emotional state. What are some things that you encourage people to hone in on as they're looking for that passion within their career? Because sometimes you just want to throw in the hat and just be like, I'm going to find a new career. And that is not the answer. You have everything you need right in front of you. It's just maybe mixed up and unorganized. Give us some tips on that.
Yeah, for sure. So anytime you're feeling depleted or defeated, what you want to do is just take a moment and check in with yourself. Take some deep breaths. And the first thing you'll ask yourself is, how am I feeling? What is the emotion I'm feeling right now? How am I feeling inside of my body? Now, what we tend to do is like, what am I thinking about? But before you ask yourself your thoughts, you want to check in with your emotions. And the reason that you do that is those emotions, if you are unaware of those emotions, they are impacting your decisions and actions, whether you realize it or not. So you want to take a little check in with yourself to say, wow, how am I feeling right now? A lot of times people will say, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I am depleted. And to that, I will say, what do you most need right now? And they'll usually say, rest. And I feel like there's three things that humans are doing. We're either working or we're playing or we're resting. We're doing one of three things. And if those things aren't in balance, and if they are in isolation of one another, then we can feel disconnected from ourselves, which disconnects us from the experience in life that we are having. And my goal is to reconnect you back to your intention for living, feeling alive, being engaged in your professional life, but also in your personal life, having time to connect with yourself and get the rest you need and the respite and the recovery, while also like not forgetting to play and have fun and engage with the world and with your friends and family and loved ones, in addition to being a school leader. And when I first coach people, a lot of leaders will say, this doesn't feel possible. The job is so big that there's very little energy left for me and my family at the end of the day. And we start right there. What is it that you need mentally, physically, emotionally, that's going to just reset yourself in order to establish values, priorities, and focusing on one thing at a time. I teach the art of constraint, which is very hard for a lot of school leaders and educators alike, because we want to do all of the things all at once. And what I say to that is, you can do anything, any one thing, if you put your mind to it. You can accomplish anything, but you can't accomplish everything. So you can do any one thing. So I like to ask people to do a focus every 90 days. They have a focus. They might have a focus for the year, but what's the one thing that if you could accomplish by the end of the year would make you feel amazing? What's that one thing and why? And get yourself focused on that, and then you use that as a decision filter to make decisions about the priorities and your energy, your focus, your attention, how you're spending your time. It goes through the lens of that, and if it's in alignment with that goal, it's a yes. And if it's not, it doesn't have to be a no, it's just a not now. Now there are things, of course, you're not just doing one thing all day. You're going to look at all of the things that you do, but we want to acknowledge when we try to do everything, we play whack-a-mole and try to be the best at everything, we end up spreading ourselves so thin that that's when we feel depleted and burned out. And we feel like we've accomplished nothing. We're in the hamster wheel. I call that the overwhelm cycle, where you're caught in a cycle of overwhelm. Everywhere you look, it feels like something's unaccomplished, something you need to do. The to-do list gets 10 miles long, and then it just rotates from the next day to the next day, and nothing really gets accomplished. And that's because we're not allowing ourselves the gift of restraint and prioritization. So yeah, I teach a lot on relationship with time and time mastery and balance mastery, because that tends to be the first component that principals like to get kind of in check. And then we can focus on creating their legacy and creating that school vision and expanding their influence and impact as a school leader.
Um, Tell everyone a little bit more about the other areas that you have been able to jump into. And you probably didn't do it all at once. You probably said, I'm going to build this podcast. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to become a keynote speaker. Give me some of the ones that you're really proud of.
Oh, they're all my babies. I mean, the podcast is like my signature go-to. It's I feel like it's the heartbeat of the empowered principal world. It was the first thing I started. So I started that podcast. Um, it was in January of 2018, I believe. So it's been around for a while. And the podcast, along with the book, they were birthed kind of together, um, in tandem. But the podcast is a living, breathing entity of its own. The book was wonderful. It's fun. I've been asked to write. I'm working with some publishers now to write some additional books. So I will be doing that. I love to write. Being an author is one of the joys of my life. But this podcast to me is it's fun. I can just jump on and I feel like I'm connected to the listeners who are global. We have global listening audience to the Empowered Principal podcast. And I feel like what's so wonderful about this podcast is that I really talk about the experience of school leadership, the emotional experience of it, the mental experience of it. And I talk about the other aspects of your life. This isn't only, it's not isolated to just school leadership techniques and strategies and skills and tools. It's really life skills and how to navigate the personal aspects of your life, your personal relationships. We even get into talking about like, blocks and obstacles that maybe you haven't overcome yet, and they're showing up in your professional decisions, or they're showing up at work where maybe you're struggling with a certain personality type, or you're a person who's afraid of conflict and you're scared to give feedback, or you're afraid to hold somebody accountable. And so we build up those soft skills, as some people call them, which I think they're the strongest skills of all. Being emotionally mature, being able to regulate yourself emotionally in any situation, being able to hold the energy in a room to facilitate conversations and to facilitate meetings, and to be able to seek to understand and listen and know when you need to apologize or repair and own something that maybe you did a misstep or misspoke in some way. Having the maturity and the courage to say, I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I'm redirecting my course of action from here on out. That takes courage. And instead of um, kind of like trying to hide it, or because you're afraid that people will be upset or you'll be embarrassed, it's like owning it actually is the most authentic thing you can do, and it feels the best as a school leader. And I I've done both, obviously, in my life, where you try to mask things, and that it just felt so terrible. So when I went into school leadership, I promised myself I would be true to myself. I would be honest and authentic with my staff. And I would tell them, like, whoa, I just got, you know, sideswiped by a parent. I did not see that coming. They just chewed me out, and I just need a minute before the staff meeting to kind of re-regulate and kind of center myself again so that I can be present for you guys. But I would say things like that. So they were like, oh, she's a human too. Like, she has rough days too. And it allowed them to say, I'm having a rough time with this particular situation. And can I talk it through with you, or can I get support? So I think that authenticity invites people in, which is that value of connection. We really are in the business of people, Amber. We are in the business of human development. That's what schools are. We're educating and evolving humans. And the evolution doesn't stop when we become adults. We're still in the school of life. We're still learning and growing and evolving ourselves, not just professionally and building up those professional skill sets, but living. And what does it mean to be alive and to be engaged in life and to love your life and to enjoy the complexity of your life and the duality of your life that includes your professional life and your personal life. So I think that's the unique spin on all the work that I do, whether it's keynote speaking, the podcast, writing books, presenting. I do a lot of online courses, webinars, so that everybody in the world can access them, that have access to them. And I also provide, multi-tiers. I do one-on-one coaching, I do group coaching, I offer like paid online courses. So there's different levels of access points. Um, but my deepest desire and passion for site, district, state leaders, for all educators really, is to love the work that we do and remember that having fun is part of the plan.
Who have been some of your biggest inspirations on your journey to this point of life? You sound so authentic and you sound happy with who you are. And I think we're all trying to get to that point, and that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yes.
But yeah, what's inspired you? How'd you get to where you are?
Well, I mean, I can't say enough about having a life coach. I will never not have a life coach because there are little things that come up. And sometimes it's those little things that we can perseverate on, or the big things in life. And I believe that we all need that level of support to have somebody to talk through, somebody who can see around our blind spots and to help point out and provide us with perspective when our brain is just in, our nervous system is kind of dysregulated and we can't see past the fear or the panic or the worry or the stress or the anger and the anticipation of some kind of future fear. So I am always singing my praises to my coaches. So I've had many coaches over my life. Dr. Martha Beck, Brooke Castillo, Stacey Bayman was a one-on-one coach and my business coach for a very long time. I love her very dearly. She's the founder of 2K for 2K, Make Money as a Life Coach podcast. She also has a 200K program and a 2 million program. So she helps life coaches build up their businesses. But prior to that, that niche in her world, she was a general life coach, and that's how I met her. We actually got certified together. And I'm currently working with another life coach named Melanie Ann Layer, who is a global coach. She focuses on marketing and branding, and really, her signature program is called Alpha Femme, and it is really embodying what it means to be a woman and being in our full empowerment, which aligns with my brand, the Empowered Principle, because it is my my passion and my vision to empower particularly women leaders, to be in our fullest empowerment and to have a voice at the table and to have a seat at the table and to feel confident enough to speak up and to provide valuable services in the world. And we are here with the most precious cargo imaginable, right? We've got everyone's littles and all the babies are coming to school every day. And I want us to keep in mind that we're here for the long haul. This is a, I always like to say it's a road trip. We're not just, going 5 minutes down the street to the grocery store. We're on the journey of a lifetime. We're doing a road trip from Los Angeles to New York and to all parts around the globe. And there's never a destination. So when you are on this one particular journey, you're going to learn along the way and you'll build up your toolkit and your skill set and your mindset, and then you get to your destination and you might start another destination, another chapter of your road trip. So to me, this is an evolution of a lifetime. We're creating masterpieces here. And what I mean by that is every life that we touch is a masterpiece in the making. And there are things that we can influence that have like faster results. And then there are things where we plant seeds and we cultivate them. And those seeds might not, grow into fruition for years or even decades. But to know that we were a part as educators of cultivating the lives of humans on the planet, I don't know of a more honorable profession. It's one of the most honorable professions, of course, I believe. And I want to make the journey and the experience for the educator as equally valuable and fulfilling as other aspects of their lives.
And fulfilling because we are constantly giving to others, and it is really hard. Like the cliche, you can't fill from an empty cup. So your work right now is so important, and it has inspired me along my journey, and I know it's inspired a lot of other people. So thank you.
Yes.
What are some of your highest rated episode subjects that, like, what are the people saying, oh, I need more of this?
Yes. I believe when it comes to navigating relationships and communication, like specific communication topics where people feel nervous, they're not sure what to say or how to say it, they're not sure how to approach a relationship or a communication or a conversation, those tend to be highly rated. Other ones that are really highly rated are, time management's a big one because everybody wants to be able to be efficient with their time. And there are specific content ones that will peak, right? And because I try to be very timely in my podcast, I try to speak about what's going on for the school leader at that moment of the school year. So those will spike, and then they might not get listened to for a while, and then they'll spike again, on each year. But I do believe like it really comes down to connections, building relationships, vision planning, how to plan, and how not just about managing time, but how you intentionally plan your time. People really want to know, like, how do I leverage time in a way where I feel that I'm the one designing my experience versus the job happening to me?
Yeah, that's a big one. So,
Yes.
with time, what are some of your plans in your next 5 years?
Well, I feel like the empowered principal is going through kind of like a remodel. I still do some one-on-ones, especially for brand new first year leaders who really want that like customized, kind of confidential experience where they can share all of their emotions and it's in the safety of just a one-on-one session. But where we've really grown is in our EPC program, the Empowered Principal Collaborative, which is a group coaching program. You can join at any time. And when you join, you get 12 months worth of access to the program. And it is a membership. So you can join in year after year. But what has been so amazing about it is the connections that are being made, the collaborations. It's truly a mastermind because it's not just me talking at you, although sometimes I definitely teach or I have new content that I want to share and they get first dibs on all of that. But they have access to one another, and there is, brainstorming and planning and just so much compassion because we're like-minded, and people can feel because they know they're all sitting in these seats together, and there's so much love and light and fulfillment and compassion in this group. And I really think principals and district leaders, they need a safe space to go where they can talk about how they're feeling, what feels like it's working, what doesn't feel like it's working. Um, th- you know, there's always something new. I mean, I was a school leader for 7 years. And one of my friends, Dr. Krates, she was in her 19th year as a principal. And I said, Dr. Krates, when does this job get easier? I think I was in like my third year when I asked her. And she put her arm around me and she looked at me. She was very tall. She looked at me and she said, Oh, honey, it never gets easier. There's never a dull moment. There's always something new. She goes, I learn something every year, which is why I love it so much. And it inspired me and it frightened me. I thought, oh my goodness, this is never going to get easier. What is she talking about? But I also had coaching to be able to navigate that. So I found that amusing, and I also found it inspiring because the way that her mindset, the way that she viewed and her perspective of school leadership was, she was continually evolving herself professionally and personally, and growing and developing and learning new things, and looking at her profession as a delight and a joy and an adventure, really. So I think about the needs of school leaders out there. So this is why I break my programs into aspiring leaders, first year leaders. We have, one-on-one coaching. We have the group coaching program. And you had asked about my 3 to 5 year plan. I am actually in the works of developing the Empowered Principal Academy, which is going to be a coaching certification. So it's teaching school leaders how to actually coach. So I'm teaching my own techniques, how to understand life coaching tools and strategies and to implement them personally, but then also be able to coach people um, from a similar way that I have learned to coach, and from what I've designed and created in my own program. So the Empowered Principal Academy is coming up in the upcoming years. And I really would like to get into some live retreats for principals. I know with COVID, that got kind of curtailed. I had wanted to do that prior to COVID. And then when the pandemic hit, we put the brakes on that. But I'm exploring having like wellness retreats for school leaders, well, where we are coaching and collaborating, but we're also really getting into that rest and that play and and that work balance and creating an identity and a mindset around what it means to be a school leader and a parent or and a loved one and a friend, and bringing all of these areas into our lives and ensuring that they're all getting the attention that we want to give them.
Do most of your clients come from every sort of background, private school, public school, boarding school, religious based school? Is it just a whole mixture?
Yes. For, throughout the last 8 years, I've had everywhere from, pre-K to, all the way through elementary school, middle school, high school. As I've had assistant principals, lead principals. I've had district leaders. A lot of my clients end up getting promoted into district level positions. But I've also had state leaders, so people working at the county and state levels who have heard the podcast and they want to know how they can apply these concepts into the work that they do at the county and the state level. So that's been such an honor to work with those folks. And then of course, I do keynote speaking and professional development programs for districts. So with all of that said, like I feel like the sky's the limit for this program. There is such a need, and I want to keep it simple for people. What I want them to know is that it's the consistency of the weekly coaching that keeps you grounded and keeps you tethered to your values and your why and your purpose and what makes you delighted to be in this job. And it reminds us, and we also, because we're having this conversation every single week, we're living it live, we're applying the tools live. So I love going to conferences. I think they're so much fun. I used to get so much inspiration and excitement and enthusiasm from attending conferences. But what I noticed is that I would go and I would be super excited and I would come back and I would try to implement it. Yeah, but without the consistent touch points, it's hard to implement an idea, to be a school leader, to go get these ideas and then to try to bring them back to a staff that hasn't had that shared experience while you're also navigating all of the other demands. It it's inspiring and it's fun. So hey, if you're going to go to a conference for the just for the break and the inspiration and to collaborate with people and to network, by all means, I think it's a fantastic way for educators to collaborate and to connect and to get ideas. And I think on top of that, what really has made the Empowered Principal program so effective is the consistent coaching week after week after week.
You brought up policy. How do you stay plugged into public policy? Are you super involved at a local level, state level, you mentioned, or are you getting involved in other aspects? And what if leaders want to get involved? Where do you point them? How do you jump in? Because that's a little bit different than just being in the educational world.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I proactively do not hyper follow policy and the politics of education because I want to come in very clean and very neutral for my clients. So typically I coach, and the difference between coaching and mentorship is coaching helps lead the client to their own decision, their own analysis, their own interpretation, or to their own set of resources. So I would advise them to seek out the information that they need or coach them on what is it they believe they need to know and why do they need to know it and how do they think it will feel if they know that information or if they want to get involved. If you want to do something in any level, there's so many aspects where you can jump in the world of education. I say follow your what feels good. You know, I teach a concept called feel good goals, and getting staff and students and administrators back into this concept of writing goals that actually feel good, because when they feel good and we're fueled by how the goal feels, we're much more likely to stay committed and motivated and to take the actions we need to take to make progress towards that goal. So, in the terms of policy, right, I would say if you're eager, you're interested in any aspect of that, just let yourself play with it a little bit and research for the fun of it and let it be fun and light. Don't don't over study policy because you think you need to be up to date on all the latest things. It's changing by the moment. And if there's anything you don't know at the time you need to know it, you can say, let me get back to you on that. And then you can research it at that time.
What have been some of your biggest challenges along the way? Maybe like top three, and how did you overcome those?
Everything that I teach to my clients now, I have personally developed and I've personally tested because I don't want to teach something that I think is just, oh, I've read this in a book, so maybe go try it. It's something that I personally implemented. So when I was a school leader, I was a single mom. I was a single mom running a household and running a school. And so I had to be very time effective and efficient. And I had to learn on the fly. I didn't have a lot of the luxury of a lot of like taking a lot of courses or classes or going to conferences because I was, navigating just the juggle of life with my son. So that's why the time and the planning and the balance all came into existence. And of course, when you become a school leader, you become a public figure, and you have to think about your personal brand and how you PR yourself and your school and the identity that you set forth. And you really have to up level your identity in the such that you can allow people to get to know you authentically, but still have boundaries. And I think one of the hardest things for school leaders, especially when you move from teaching into school leadership, is there is such a sensitivity around what people think about you and how you feel. And when you get your first hater, you get somebody that doesn't like you, it is devastating in the moment. And it's learning to process those feelings, validating them, acknowledging them, but having the strength and the resiliency and kind of the maturity to say, there are times where I'm going to have to allow people to be wrong about me. There are times where they're going to be right about me, and I'm going to own that. And then there are times where I have to just agree to disagree and have my own back, stay grounded in what I believe to be true, because that's what tethers you during any kind of social storm, right? If you get public scrutiny, and you probably will at some point in your career, because that's part of the game. But can you find the internal strength to tether you during those public, difficult times? I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I know I faced it, and I felt like I couldn't handle it at the time, that I wasn't cut out to be a leader, and I made it mean something was wrong with me versus making it mean I'm expanding my capacity to be able to handle a leadership position, but I have the skills. If you can be a teacher, you can be a leader. Like, you already are a leader. You're just a leader of your classroom, and now you're expanding it to be the leader of a school. So you have the skill set, I promise you. Um, but it does require you to really expand your emotional bandwidth, your emotional capacity to handle the discomfort that comes with stepping into a leadership role.
So, in closing, what advice do you have for somebody who's sort of navigating, like, I'm thinking about going from the classroom into leadership, but I'm really not sure? What would you do to like encourage that next little push?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, if you're thinking about it, you're already intrigued. And if you're doing that, I really want to like highlight you back to the Aspiring School Leader series that I mentioned earlier, because that it will give you things to think about. It will give you a direction. It will give you a focus. It will help you set yourself up internally to prepare yourself to go through the interview process and to decide for yourself. And one of the things I talk about with my aspiring school leaders, of course, you need to know your why. And for some people, like, there's a million different whys. Your why just has to be your why. It doesn't matter why you're going into it, but it has to matter to you. And it also has to matter to you that your belief in yourself, it has to be there in advance. You have to believe that you're capable of being a leader. Now, I will say this caveat: you can believe that you're going to be a leader, and it's kind of like before you become a parent and then after you become a parent. You have an image and an expectation of what it will feel like to become a parent for those of you who are parents. And then you have a baby and you bring it home and you're like, oh my goodness, like this is the real deal. Like this feels very different. Or even when you started your classroom, right? Being in front of a classroom is very different than reading theory about classroom management. So the same is true for leadership. What you envision, it will feel different, which is why How to Be New came about. It was allowing yourself to be new, embracing the new, letting it be clumsy and awkward and feel a little bit goofy sometimes. And you're not going to know all of the things, and giving yourself, space and grace and permission to not know. You're not going to know. You learn by doing, as did the kids, as do our teachers. So we want to be examples of that as new principals.
Great advice. And thank you. I want to be cognizant of your time on this because I know you've got a very, very packed schedule. So,
You're so sweet.
Angela Kelly with the Empowered Principal and all the facets that that brand and company entails. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. I can't wait to get some of the links to your resources. I want anybody who's in education to check out all that you have to offer. And so, whether you're a teacher, a parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other.